Welcome to episode 426 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Meyers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourScreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing Guy Goldstein. He is the founder of Writer Duet, which is a screenwriting software that's gaining a lot of traction. He's a really smart guy and just a really creative and generous soul. There's a lot of free tools that his company offers to screenwriters, so we're going to be talking through all of that, as well as the main writing platform that they have developed over at Writer Duet. So stay tuned for that interview. And Writer Duet has been very generous in coming on board as a sponsor of SYS, a six-figure screenplay contest. So this year's winner of the contest is going to get a free membership to Writer's Duet valued at $399. So a big thanks to Guy and to Writer Duet for that. SYS, a six-figure screenplay contest, is open for submissions. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/contest. Our regular deadline is May 31st. So if your script is ready, definitely submit now to save some money. We're looking for low budget shorts and features. I'm defining low budgets as less than six figures. In other words, less than $1 million. We've got lots of industry judges reading scripts in the later rounds. We've got giving away thousands in cash and prizes. And now again, we're giving away this Writer Duet membership as an added bonus to our winner. This year, we have a short film script category, 30 pages or less. So we have a low budget short script. So by all means, if you have a short script, do submit that as well. I've got a number of industry judges who are producers who are looking for short scripts. Anyway, if this sounds like something you'd like to enter or learn a little bit more about, just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/contest. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mentioned in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast and then just look for episode number 426. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So a quick few words about what I'm working on. A couple of things I've been pushing through this week. We're still ramping up our marketing efforts on the Rideshare Killer, and we're opening up to more and more platforms. We went live on Tubi TV last week. This is a great way to watch the Rideshare Killer for free. You do have to watch some ads. That's how we make money, is they put some ads in the video as you're watching it. But it's totally free to watch it. You can download the Tubi TV app on Roku or Apple TV or really any device that you use to stream movies. You should be able to find the Tubi TV app and just download it, or you can actually just go to the website tubitv.com and watch the movie in a web browser. In fact, my other film, The Pinch, is also available on Tubi TV now as well. So if you haven't checked that out and want to see what that's about, again, this is a quick, easy, free way to check out both the Rideshare Killer and The Pinch. And I will link to those in the show notes. I'll give some more specific links so you can go straight to it in the show notes. And speaking of The Pinch, the other thing I've been doing over the last week is experimenting a little bit with NFTs, and I've created a few NFTs on different marketplaces for The Pinch. Really, I'm just doing this as sort of an experiment to figure things out. I think I've done 8 of them. I've done 8 NFTs so far. I'll probably do a couple more. I'm just sort of experimenting with the different marketplaces. They all work a little bit different. They all cost a little bit differently. Some of them are easier to upload to than others. So as I said, I'm just kind of experimenting, but if you have any interest in looking at those, you can go to our website, thepinchfilm.com, and I put a little link up in the header that says NFTs, so you can just click on that. And then I'm listing all of these different marketplaces where I am linking to it. And again, I'm still planning on doing something with NFTs with the Rideshare Killer, so stay tuned for that. But as I said, I'm just kind of trying to learn about it with these NFTs for The Pinch. Buying NFTs is not for the faint of heart. it's, you got to download like a crypto wallet, and then put some money in it. And it's not always that easy to get some cryptocurrency into this crypto wallet. You have to go through one of the exchanges like a Coinbase, where they will take something like PayPal. I think they'll take a credit card. I've been using PayPal to push money into Coinbase, and then I have a little bit of crypto, and then I've been able to go and, as I said, mint some of these NFTs. But it is definitely pretty confusing. And one of them, for instance, I think it was this marketplace called Policy. It seemed to have minted the NFT, but it's not actually listed under my listing. But I can see the NFT in this wallet that I created, this crypto wallet that I created. So it's definitely, as I said, definitely still is a little bit, I would say, not user friendly, and it is a little bit complicated. But hopefully, as the space matures, these sorts of sort of function type things will kind of be worked out so that things are much easier. And as I said, if this market matures, I do think this could be something that filmmakers can use to help monetize their films. I think it's just a great way to increase interest in the film, bring some notoriety to the film, and as I said, potentially another monetization stream for filmmakers, and especially indie filmmakers like this. An indie film that really took off, I think, could do a lot with NFTs. And again, especially once the NFT marketplace sort of matures. Anyway, any feedback on this, just let me know. I'm happy to hear what anybody has to say on NFTs. As I said, I'm still definitely in the learning phase. And once again, if you want to check that out, it's going to be thepinchfilm.com, and I will link to that in the show notes as well. But you can just go to the pinchfilm.com website, and then you can find all the links to the different marketplaces that I've been trying out. Anyways, that's the main things I've been working on over the last week. Now let's get into the main segment. Today, I am interviewing founder of Writer Duet, Guy Goldstein. Here is the interview. Welcome, Guy, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you are the founder of screenwriting software Writer Duet. Maybe you can just give us a quick pitch for that. I think it will give us some context as we kind of get into your background a little bit. What is special and unique, just in a couple of seconds, about Writer Duet?
A Writer Duet is a real-time collaborative screenwriting software. So anyone who's co-writing a screenplay will certainly benefit from it, like the Google Docs of screenwriting software, essentially. And then in general, it's just modern screenwriting software that works across platforms. It works on your mobile device, keeps you in sync everywhere, and has a lot of features that screenwriting software should have to make writing more efficient and effective and fun for writers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. And as I said, we're going to dig into that a little bit more later. But I just kind of like to get to know you a little bit. Where did you grow up, and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I allegedly grew up in upstate New York. Well, 36 years later, I haven't really grown up yet, but I started there, got into acting probably around 4 or 5 because my whole family acted, and I used to love house productions, and we would take them to, senior citizen homes and things like that. And then the community theater. My sister, one of my sisters, is a musical writer in New York City now, and she was writing musicals when she was a little bit older than me. She was like 13, so I was acting in her shows. We had a whole like local production company. So I've been acting since I was too young to know how to act. And again, some would say I still don't know how to act, but I've been doing that for a long time. And then I got really into improv as an older, as an adult, and that led to screenwriting when I unfortunately realized I didn't like when anyone else talked. So I had to control both sides of the conversation in improv, and that's a poor improv skill, but a good screenwriting trait. So that's my creative side of my career.
Okay, yeah. So let's dig in then. Where did the programming come in? Maybe take us out. So you're in Buffalo, New York, growing up. You went to college. You got a computer science degree.
I did. So I was in Schenectady, New York, was my like little small hometown, and then I went off to Pittsburgh, and I did Carnegie Mellon, and I graduated pretty young, and I was into the theater side there. But programming, it's kind of funny. I was a math major officially because computer science was too specific, and like math was theoretical and fun. And as an adult, I have like fluctuated between this artist and an engineer, let's call it. And I liked math because it was just thinking and storytelling in your own way. And I kind of probably put more of my theater focus on the creative artist and math side. And then at the same time, I'm very problem solving oriented. And that's another, I guess, screenwriting skill in some ways, where you have a specific thing that has to work a certain way, and you find ways of making it, work to achieve your goal. And that's where, software has to solve a problem where it's not very useful. So I kind of, even though I think of myself as like an artist creative, it's a lot with a if I want to create art, I have to do it in a very concrete way, or no one will see my art, just software or otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. So then how did that take us through some of your early jobs as a programmer, and then ultimately take us all the way to how did you end up then at Writer Duet?
So I graduated from Carnegie Mellon. I got a job in compilers because I liked language, and so I was studying compilers because they're the human to computer translators essentially. And I like thinking about how do essentially humans communicate with computers, and how do we make that more again efficient, and how do we make the code optimized and all this stuff. And so I built those for about 5.5 years. I was in California at the time, Santa Barbara, and that's where I sort of because I never really stopped, but I continued to get into improv and theater in Santa Barbara. And I started my screenwriting. And this is kind of, you'll hear an interesting thing that you might not know about what I'm doing now with Writer Duet. But I started before Writer Duet, I built something called readthrough.com. And that was a way of listening to scripts because I was in Santa Barbara traveling to LA for, writing workshops and hanging out with writers and stuff. And so I had this 90 to, 2 times that length drive, 90 minutes drive from Santa Barbara to LA and back. And so I would listen to screenplays on the way. And I wrote a software that let me listen to screenplays read by computer voices. And that was actually the first screenwriting product I built. Well, I still had a job at the time and then was transitioning to that. So I actually built readthrough.com for myself as this audio script performance. And then Writer Duet was a sort of transition where I had already quit my job and was doing this full time as a startup. And I don't think I ever cared if it was successful at the time. Not that I didn't want it to be, but I was just building something to build it. Again, kind of artist side. You just believe something is interesting and you hope that other people share your belief. And so I built that. 2.5 years later, I was still kind of not going nowhere with it, honestly. I was in Austin randomly, and my buddy, friends of the co-founders of a company called Firebase that sold to Google, and it's a very it's real-time data syncing basically, so it keeps data on the web all together. And I thought I'd just build a cool demo of their product for South by Southwest that was happening in a few months. So this was January 2013, and I was like, he's coming to Austin, hang out for South by. I'll build this demo, and built in 3 months. Launched it at South by there, just going around to all the short films and talking to all the writers afterwards and stuff. And I was like, wow, people are more into this than the thing I spent 2.5 years building. I probably should just do this now. So Writer Duet sort of was not an accident, but it wasn't this. I had a co-writer. I needed to co-write with them. It was sort of just, I thought it'd be cool, and I thought it was interesting.
But take me back there. So how did these guys at, what did you say, Firestarter? How did they impact that? And like, what was the seed of just germ of an idea? You said, like, why did you need to create this?
So Firebase was, or is, because it still exists, it's wonderful, a real-time data synchronization. So essentially, how does, someone does something, doesn't matter what, how does a number get transferred from one computer to another on the internet? And especially like when they were doing this more than 8 years ago, it was very, complex to build yourself. So they had built the first, I think, great version of that really synchronized data. It had a really great way of doing that. It was just 2 friends originally, and then other people joined as they grew. So I thought, hey, I'm in the screenwriting space anyway. I was writing at the time, so I'm still a screenwriter, allegedly. I'm not writing as much anymore, but I'm trying real hard. And I was writing, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just build something that's a real-time syncing writing software. I thought it would just be like essentially a toy at the time, just as proof you could do it. Like, I didn't really know how important it would be because I wasn't actually a co-writer. And once I built it, the first like simple version of it, then I realized, oh wait, a lot of people are co-writing. It's not just common for the early stage writing, but obviously once you're in production, almost every director, if they're not the same person as the writer, wants to engage with the screenplay in some way. And then you have the production staff who need to see the screenplay. And so obviously there are a ton of co-writers who just start out that way from the beginning, but then once you're in production, essentially, film is extremely collaborative. And I still have never actually produced anything, so I haven't gotten to experience that level of collaboration myself. But I have been very blessed to see people do that, and realizing that need was so important was what happened.
And it seems to me, I could be wrong, but it seems to me 8 years ago, like Google Docs was launched, and that was kind of I could be in one room, you could be in another room, and I could watch you type, and vice versa. You could see where the other person's cursor was. Was that part of the that's essentially what you've done with Writer's Duet. You've made a collaborative screenwriting software that works similar, correct?
Yeah, that was the actual inspiration, was just to build something that worked as well as Google Docs it does for regular writing to work for the domain specific screenwriting. As everyone knows, a screenwriter, like you need screenwriting software to not just achieve the goal, but to make it fun and effective. Like using Google Docs to write a screenplay is not a great experience, even if you're, not super cognizant of the format. As long as you're trying to be somewhat screenplay formatting, aware, it just doesn't work very well in other programs. And so you need domain specific screenwriting software. And I always think about the niche products should deliver the same like joy that you can get from the products everyone's using for their everyday life. And I think screenwriting software fell behind that. And it's actually improved a lot, not just because of Writer Duet. Obviously, other people have contributed to this. You should feel the joy of using your favorite app while you're writing your screenplay. I wanted people to feel that way. And collaboration was the starting point of that. Like if you're emailing scripts back and forth and you're waiting for your writing partner to add their notes or write their scenes or, edit your scenes that you've written, that just takes you out of the creative moment. And everything I've done with Writer Duet, it kind of extended from that idea of everything should be about capturing your creativity and just getting you what you need to keep moving forward. Maybe that's, you need us to leave you alone. Okay, we have, focus mode takes everything away. You just need to focus on the words you're writing. Or you want a tool that helps you analyze what you've written or look at just one character's dialogue or just certain scenes. And all these little tools that we built over the years have all been about how do we keep you in your creative moment? And that's the thing that's really been important to me.
Yeah, for sure. So then, okay, so you're at this Austin, it was the Austin Film Festival, or was this South by Southwest? South by Southwest. Okay, so then what were the next steps? What did you come out of that? You realized that maybe there's a market for this. You'd spent this 2.5 years on the other project, maybe not getting as much interest in it. So what were those next steps then, turning it into an actual usable software?
So it was super organic. Like the first place I told anyone besides literal people I was meeting at South by was on the Reddit screenwriting forum, which also was just tiny at the time. Like, I don't know the numbers, but back then I think I looked at my original post and I had like 50 something upvotes. It was one of the most upvoted thing of the month or whatever. Back then it was this real hot thing. And now it's, you get 500 upvotes if you're popular because it's just a bigger platform now. Yeah. But the screenwriting subreddit was just a wonderful place because it is a film community still. I think people still there, they just love writing. They love helping each other. People have agendas and not everyone is as, encouraging, let's call it, as everyone else. But especially back then, and to a large degree still, people were excited about not just Writer Duet, but each other, right? You're building something. Okay, that's interesting. And how can I offer something to you to help you? So I just posted it there. People immediately wanted to try it. They gave me feedback. I had the attitude of, if it takes me, an hour to build this thing, I'm just going to do it now. I'm just going to make this for you. I'm going to make your life better. I'm going to make you not only appreciate the product, but appreciate that you're part of the creative process with me. And I just built everything for those writers. And from there, like I can shout out Craig Mazin and the Script Notes podcast. Craig Mason really launched it to the broader world by just talking about it as one cool thing, probably, a few months after I posted on Reddit. And then it kind of extended where we got No Film School. They wrote about it because of Craig. And then, years later, just a cycle of people who I think it's kind of, not egotistical, I don't mean it that way, but it's people who appreciate what we're trying to accomplish. And I think the thing that has propelled Writer has never been marketing dollars. It has never been, I'm not good at marketing. Like, honestly, if we look at the history, I've never done anything that made us more successful than the people who just liked it. The people who were just like, well, that's cool. Even if I'm not using your software, I like that you're building this. And I like that you want to make the creative process better for other people. And they've just shared that. And, without that, there would be no Writer Duet. Like, we wouldn't have gone anywhere. People wouldn't have told us what to build. And that's been the basis of everything we've done.
Yeah. That's so funny. You mentioned the Reddit screenwriting. I went in there, it was probably about 8 years ago when I started my podcast and stuff. And I think it was just my blog, and I was posting blog posts in there, and they just hammered me because I wasn't part of the community. I was kind of just spamming their forum, and they were getting annoyed at me.
That's like, and this is an art for writers, I think, too, is not to criticize you or say you were doing this or weren't doing this, but why it worked really well for me is I think it was so authentic. Like, I was just a guy trying to make a thing, and they were like, yeah, that's cool. We're all just trying to make things. Like, we're making screenplays, and I was also making screenplays, but they were making screenplays and I was making software in this context. And I just wanted them to tell me they hated it, tell me they loved it, just be part of it. And that's, I think, a key for startups, for writers, for whatever, like choosing who you are and why you're doing this and being real about it. And I think people relate to that in any creative community, especially.
Were you a part of the community? Like, were you in there before Writer Duet, just contributing, making comments?
I wasn't actually. That's probably honestly, it wasn't. I don't think I was on Reddit. Probably just barely had made an account by the time I made that thing. But
Hmm.
I had just looked for where people were engaging with each other, like where they were actually like, especially I don't want to. I think it's great now. It's a wonderful community now. But if you look at the glory days of it in my worldview, uh, there was so much engagement in proportion to the number of people there. Like they were all so caring, and I think finding communities like that is just so important. Like being part of a million person community is great because you're going to find people with immense experience. You're going to find people who can help you at any phase, can offer sage wisdom. And that's not there at the smaller communities. Sometimes depends, if you get lucky or not. But when you are just an artist who wants to build something, you just want people who care. You just want the people who are going to engage with you and like think it's cool that you made it, or downvote you to oblivion, because I've been downvoted to oblivion as well. Because like, hey, the way I presented something sucked, or our product had a bug or something, and like people let you know. Like I got one, I remember someone's like, hey, didn't know anyone else here that Writer Duet guy's always posting? And I was like, yeah, maybe it does annoy everyone. So I made another post. I was like, hey, if y'all don't want me here, just I'll chill. It's okay. I'll still be here to like, listen to your feedback, but I won't
Hmm.
post. And I was truly, I think, knowing that if they didn't want me, I would leave, maybe help them like and it was true. So I think finding a creative community that you really feel like you're a part of and knows you and like kind of embraces you is really critical.
Yeah, yeah, that's such sound advice. And I think Stage 32 is similar. There's a lot of forums over there that you can join and get a part of. But yeah, the Reddit forum, there's a lot of them out. There's probably a number of Facebook groups people can probably join. How did Craig Mazin happen to hear about you? Did he find you through Reddit?
That would be slightly cool. I may have presented it like that's true. Unfortunately, it's not, because I am one thing I am is not shy, and so I tweeted at him a bunch of times, and like, "Hey, I made this thing." And it was not a coincidence. Literally, it's a fortunate timing that he had said on the Script Notes podcast, "Man, if someone made a collaborative screenwriting program, that would be real important to the
Gotcha.
world or whatever." And just when he said that, I was like, yeah, I made that thing. So I tweeted
Mhm.
at him a few times, and he didn't tell me. He's both John and Craig are great assets to the community, and just have helped so many writers. And the idea of just you want to help people is so pervasive in this industry. Like people do want to bring newer writers, newer software, whatever along, as long as you're trying to do it in a way that's positive for the community. So Craig is a great example of that. And it
Mhm.
continued to be. They shouted us out recently. Our new product, I tweeted at him or emailed him or whatever, and talked about that. So they've been pretty cool when you make something innovative that actually helps people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So do you think running Writer Duet has helped you get any closer to seeing one of your films produced, one of your
I
scripts
got me
produced?
so much farther away from it. And not because I couldn't have done both, but because it was just a choice. Like you
Mhm.
balance. I think people who balance a non-creative job and a creative outlet, that's not necessarily ideal, because whatever, people live their life, but that's a way that you can kind of focus one part of your brain and take skill on one thing, and the other creative part somewhere else. I've thought of Writer Duet as a creative outlet all these years, which makes it so hard. Some days I'm like, I'm tired of creativity when I'm doing all this
Mhm.
stuff. So it's been harder to make my own stuff. But that being said, I still try. I do it both because I like, the art, and I like testing our software, and I like just using it.
Mhm.
So currently I'm writing a web comic that uh, the goal of it, this is, one of those things that probably won't work out anyway, but the goal is to build something that, again, people like. I don't care if it's three people, but three people are like, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Or I'm glad you made something that was funny, whatever. They're just
Mhm.
happy that it's there. If that works out well, then I know there's a lot of room to grow from that. So I'm just going to try a simpler thing. Than all these years I've written some features that are just, not too expensive to make. They're low budget, but they're just not going to get made unless I do something. Versus
Mhm.
a webcomic, it's a lower bar for making something that a person has a chance to say, yeah, I love that, or no, pass. And that's
Mhm.
what I want to do more of, like faster iteration of my art.
Yeah, gotcha, gotcha. How did you happen to end up in Austin?
It was just a coincidence. I was literally just driving around the country. I got rid of everything I owned that did not fit in my car, and just drove out of Santa Barbara for 10 months.
Hmm.
And this is like the artist. I feel like I'm coming across as this like wild hippie, and I'm really not. I'm much more boring than that. But I did that travel for a while, and Austin was just really cool. I was here for 3 months, and that was just random. Met a lot of great people. I got really into swing dancing here, and just like hanging out. And Writer Duet happened, like I said, because of Austin, just because of South by Southwest. If you're not familiar, is the mix of, I mean, I know you are, but your audience might not be. The mix of creative and the art side, like film and the music, and then of course it has a technology component. And just that intersection is so important. I think a lot of intersections of ideas is where, you know, innovation comes from, and it's the town that inspires that. And I think that was really, you know, great accident that happened. Great
yeah, for sure. So what is the filmmaking community like there? And would you recommend that, especially if you're like an aspiring screenwriter, would Austin be a good place for a screenwriter?
A screenwriter, a good place is where you're happy. Like that's what a good place for a screenwriter is, where you feel, you know, creatively fulfilled, you have space, and you can afford to live. Like that's a good place for a screenwriter. For a filmmaker, it has aspects that are good. I have not been a huge part of like the film community, because honestly, I feel bad saying this. I've spent my time, you know, early days, like 100 hours a week in front of my laptop coding. Now a little bit more, you know, varied, but because of COVID, it hasn't really expanded my social horizons at all. So I think I don't know much about it. I know that they have the film community, but it's not something that's going to elevate you to a professional unless you're just that good, right? If you're just that good, you become a professional from wherever you are. But in terms of screenwriting, I think it is a great place because there are other people who are interesting and interested. And if you can find a community that does that, then you're going to be good no matter where you are. Like if you can find, doesn't have to be talented people. If they're just people, and actually Austin is talented and wonderful writers here, some very famous ones, some not famous yet ones. But if you can find people who just care that you're doing something and will give you notes and tell you their thing is, you know, terrible or amazing, and they can be wrong, but they're giving you their heart and their reasons why, that's a great place to be a screenwriter. And I think you can find that almost anywhere. Austin is a place that different times I've definitely found that for my writing.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's really excellent advice. So let's dig into Writer Duet a little bit and kind of talk about some of the things that it offers. Maybe we can just talk about some of the features that you offer. Over the years, I've had a need quite often where I need a PDF turned back into an editable screenplay. And for whatever reason, I'm just always found Writer Duet is the easiest one to do it. You can just upload your script. I don't even think I have an account. I think I've been able to do it without even having an account on your, maybe I do. I don't quote me on that. But
you're right.
Was that?
You're right. You can. Yeah.
Yeah. So in any event, so I've used it for that, but what are some other really useful features that maybe people wouldn't necessarily know about that screenwriters would really find useful?
So at a high level, the feature set that people know us for is the real-time collaboration, infinite revision history, and that's just based on how we did real-time, where every single edit is stored into the cloud, which means we have, like, you can just rewind your script to what was it like on Tuesday. You can rewind an individual line and see its history. You can, you know, collaborate with your friend and say, what did, you know, Janice change yesterday? What changes happened in the last 2 weeks? And you can isolate those exactly. It's kind of both a writer's dream and a script coordinator's dream. If they've ever had someone forget to turn on locked pages or forget to turn on revisions or something, you can always just go back, you know, merge and make changes. So those are kind of the main, and then of course that it's mobile friendly. It works on any device. It works on your Chromebook. It's a web, it's desktop software as well as mobile app. It works offline whenever you're not on the internet. You can make all your changes. As soon as you connect to the internet, it'll send them out, pull down any changes that happened from other computers or other writers. So basically trying to make screenwriting accessible and free and easy, where even the infinite history, you don't have to think about, did I save a draft? Like, oh shoot, I had this really great line yesterday, but it's gone now because I rewrote it when I was, you know, angry at something. That freedom to just cut and play and be able to recover. That's like the first tier of features. And then the stuff that I kind of, you know, there are lots of little features within that as well. But the ones I love is some of our report stuff we do, I just think is cool. You can break down your script by locations. You can break it down by characters. You can like filter your script to just see one character's scenes or one character's dialogue, just to edit that in one place and say, hey, does this actually work for this character's journey? You can use cards and you can move things around. You have a mind map where you can kind of visualize it in a, let's call it like a non-linear way. If your story is interconnecting plot points and things, tagging plot points and then filtering to just those, etc. Statistics, like we really like. I have this attitude of the more you know about your script, the more chances are for you to like just be inspired. And that's why I like looking at scripts differently. Like I like filtering to just a character's dialogue or just a character's scenes to say, hey, what's it like for this one character? What's their journey? And then the statistics give you that same, you know, external perspective of, what character, talks the most? What did their sentence structure look like? How many, different times do I have these different people interacting in some way? So trying to get people a perspective on their script that doesn't happen just by reading the same 120 pages over and over and over again. And then on the context of reading, something I love that a lot of people take advantage of is the read aloud feature, where you can listen to your script read back by different character voices. And I mentioned that in the beginning. That was originally what I created readthrough.com for, was to have a way of listening to your script. And that's a feature in Writer Duet now, where you can listen to different characters or different computer voices for each character. And it does a few things. One thing it does for you immediately is it just makes you feel different. You absorb your story so differently when you're listening just to a computer reading it. You can have your friend record parts as well, but I really like that. It also forces you to catch yourself when like things are overwritten, or there's just bulky, like you're like, man, he just opened the door, why did I use 3 sentences to say he slowly walked out? Like, he just opened the door. And it makes you force yourself to condense, because when you're reading your same thing over and over again, you just kind of skim it anyway. You can't skim it when the voice is reading those words one at a time back to you and you're so angry. So those are like some highlight reel features.
And let's dig in, and I'm sure there'll be more, but let's dig into the read aloud feature. I I'm still running a contest, but last year I found on Microsoft Edge, the browser, I could just drop the PDF in there and then use that read aloud feature and it would read it, but it couldn't do what you're saying. You couldn't change the voices. You could change the speed. So I could speed it up to like 2x and I could really grind through some scripts. I'm a really slow reader. So that, for me, that's like a really important feature. What do you have? Do you have something like that? Can I drop a PDF in? Does it have to be like a written script?
No, you can just put a PDF in there, because as you know, Writer Duet imports from basically anything. It imports a final draft document, PDF, whatever, and you can just listen to your script. It automatically will detect age and gender of your script. It'll, figure out gender based on cues and names and all these things. It'll try to figure out age. If you put, parentheses 20s, it'll read that. So it'll try to cast it, and then you can adjust the casting if you don't like it. And that's feature inside Writer Duet. And I have to now talk about this. I don't know, you didn't know this was coming, but we have a new product that we just recently launched. And amusingly, this whole thing is coming back. It's called Read Through. So we reused the original name of that old thing. That's why I said sort of not an ironic twist, but a fun circle of life. And it has that feature as well. And I think that's actually the best place for people to listen to their scripts now, because Writer Duet, if you're using our software, it's great, but it's just an unnecessary step. If you are just, writing a final draft, or you just have a PDF of someone else's script, you can just throw it in this thing. It's Read Through is the app. It's readthrough.com, and you can use it on mobile, web, whatever. And it not only has the recording feature or the listening feature, it has recording. So you can have like an actor record some pieces, you can speed it up, you can, change the, whatever, all those different settings on the listening to it. And then the other fun thing about Read Through, which is totally free, by the way, we just made this thing free to get it out there and get people using it. So you can just upload your script, listen, and have a nice day. You don't have to sign up for an account. You can just do it for free without ever.
I'll be using it a lot this year.
Yeah, please do, and give us your feedback, because that's how things get great. And that's why, honestly, the reason we're making it free is just because I want to make something cool and good that people love, and I don't want barriers. Like Writer Duet, you have to make paid at this point, because we have, a full-time, we have 10 people at our company, and you can't run that for nothing. But Read Through, I looked at it as, we're profitable and I'm doing fine in my life. This is just something I want to be successful. We'll find ways of making money off it down the line, but I'm just trying to get people using it. And I was going to mention the other killer features, in my opinion. Reading scripts is kind of a bad experience on mobile, because the PDFs are not the correct view size. Essentially, you have to pinch and zoom or whatever, and so it just reflows your text. It'll still keep your same page count, so page 1 is page 1, page 7 is page 7, but it'll make it look like an appropriate script on mobile. It'll just make the pages long to make them match up. That feature alone makes it just a wonderful experience to read scripts for me, because I take my phone everywhere. I take my computer, I try not to take my computer places. I got in the gym, I can listen, I can read on my phone, and then you can make your notes right there and just put them in the document. So unlike a PDF, which is kind of hard to scratch your annotations on top of or use as annotation tools, on your phone or on your computer, you just tap a thing, you just write a comment, it's there in line in your script. And on any device you go to, now you have all your comments. And then if you want to, you can share it. In the case of you're not the author, you can actually share your comments back with the author in this program. So I can share my script with my 10 friends, and instead of having 10 different people give me their 10 different emails with their notes written, handwritten, or whatever they do on their PDF.
Mhm.
I just say, hey, here's my link. All the people go to it. They write their comments. I get all the people's comments in one place that they chose to share with me. So
Huh.
that's this kind of new thing I think we're going to.
Yeah, that's cool. And so well, you share this link, and then they'll not only be able to read it on their phone, but they'll actually be able to just press read aloud, and then it'll get cast just exactly what you're saying, and it'll actually be read to them.
Yeah, exactly. So they can listen to it. They can read on their phone, read on any device, on their computers, whatever. They can write their notes in line. If you have an update, you're like, fuck, I forgot something on page 7's all fucked up because I did something.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to send them a new PDF. You just push your change, and instantly everyone who's on the script is going to get that new version when you choose to send it. Then you get multiple different versions. You're like, okay, I got my producer's version. Then I have my close confidant version where I'm sending them the updated drafts as I go. And I think it's trying to change the way people read scripts is kind of my new mission. Like writing has improved so dramatically since Writer Duet started. Like, first of all, other web software exists, other desktop software exists. Like, the innovations have happened. I don't think we caused all of them, but I like to think we're a part of pushing the industry forward. And we're still doing that. We're still improving it, but no one's really improved the process of reading scripts. Like, we read things about the same way we read them 20 years ago. And that's why read through is the new thing I'm passionate about, because if we can help people actually read and give feedback to each other, we're going to make a better creative community.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was in high school, there was this thing called MLA formatting. I've never heard of it outside of high school. It was some sort of like standard format for like term papers or research papers, and the teachers would make us use that. And I'm just curious, like, what is the ultimate style guide for screenwriting? And it's like, if you're creating software, where do you guys look? If you guys have sort of an obscure use case, where do you guys look? Like, what's the authority for you guys to say, okay, this is how it actually should be done, or this is the right way to do something? Because I don't know if there really is that in screenwriting. And it's more of something that just came out of, it was a practical thing where it came out of producing movies, and there was a certain practicality to how screenplays are laid out just so you could shoot them properly. But where do you guys look if you guys have a question about formatting?
So, to be totally honest, and it's going to sound funny saying this, but final draft. And the reason is, if that's what the industry standard is, and it is, like I always said, like Writer Duet's the new industry standard, and we're pushing the boundaries, and I think we are, and it's completely compatible with Final Draft, so you can use it in the same way. But if that's what people start with and that's what people expect, just make it look the same. And there's sort of a, especially thinking about the screenwriting Reddit, I'm sure a lot of other communities, there's this pushback to, well, why write things in a certain way? Like, you should write in whatever way tells your story the best. And I actually really appreciate that viewpoint. Like, you are there to tell your story. You are not there to fit someone else's rules. But if the way they're going to absorb your story is different, if you write it, 16-point Arial font, it's just not, maybe that's not going to be good for the reader. And you have to, you can write it for yourself, and that's a great starting point. But if you want this to be something that other people absorb, you have to write the way they're going to do it. And I think just doing it the way they're used to is a huge advantage. Like, finding the things that are unique about your story and the way you tell it is probably more important than saying I have to use, 0-point margins so it goes to the edge of my page because I need you to feel trapped because you're in an elevator. Well, yeah, it might make me feel trapped in reading your script, honestly. So I'm going to stop. So I think that's my personal take on it. In terms of what the real standards are, it doesn't matter. Like, no one, there are things that actually matter, right? There's locked pages actually matter for production, because when you have a script and you have people, do like to print it out, if changing one line on page 1 pushes all the pages down, so you need a whole 120-page copy, and you have to hand 120 pages, that sucks. So locked pages matter. The way asterisks work and colored pages and all that stuff matters. The way people do those in a very technical sense, but that's not the art of the format. The actual intricacies of, is it, I don't even know, dialogue 4 inches? I have no idea. Something like that. Does that matter? No, not really.
Yeah. So are there some things that you think maybe screenwriters don't understand about formatting? And I just noticed, you guys have a little lyrics thing, and it's labeled mostly in musicals. And that almost feels like you're telling the writers, don't use this a lot. This is not just to willy-nilly things. Dual dialogue is something that always seems to get a little bit messed up. All screenwriting software seems to have it these days. But are there some things that you think maybe screenwriters don't fully understand about formatting?
The joke we have, I think transitions or shots we say rarely used. We're pretty calling people out if they're going over the top with these things. I think the people the idea of self-directing on the page is good for one reason, right? It's good if that's the way that actually conveys your story. Like if that's the way a human experiences your thing. But I think people get overly, like, even gonna paraphrase, but the show don't tell idea kind of gets overblown where people are like, shit, I have to show everything. I have to tell them she slowly sips her coffee and the wind rustles or whatever. Like, you don't have to say everything about the movie experience. You have to tell people enough that conveys a story and gets people in the emotional state that you want them in. And I think the thing that people miss is not like necessarily what line types to use. It's what is the simplest way to convey an emotion, or what is the best way to keep someone feeling the way you want them to feel. And overwriting takes me away from that. Like if I'm reading a screenplay that has these intricate details, I'm like, I don't even know what you want me to focus on. Like, sure, all these things happen, but why? And I'm kind of guessing, like, okay, is it going to be really important that he smoked a cigar? No, that was just a character effect that you thought was interesting. I'm like, okay, well, cool. I'll never remember that he did that. So I think that's one of the things that I think on the flip side, people who underwrite, I think there's actually a beautiful style. I think one of the Alien cuts did that, or the screenplays did it, where they were like single words on each line. And that's a style that works if that style works. Like you want someone to feel a certain way, like jarring and empty. You give them one word at a time and make them feel that way. But if you just do that for an effect of a style and it doesn't actually make sense for your story, if you're writing a romantic comedy and it's one word at a time, I'm gonna be so pissed. Like you make me have all this tension, but they're just having a nice dinner.
Yeah,
So maybe my lesson is make the writing fit your tone. Like feel what the audience is going to feel and make your like word pattern just kind of adjust to that.
So you talked about the paid version. What is the pricing of this? How does pricing work? And is there a free version? I know there used to be a free version of Writer Duet.
Yeah, we are pretty aggressively generous with our free stuff. So Writer Duet has a free tier where you can write up to 3 scripts on it, no page limit, no watermarks, nothing that annoys you. Like we don't really do any advertising. Every now and then we'll have a little pop-up reminding you why you might want to pay, but that's it. So just close it. And so the free version, we try to keep people writing. It has a limited collaboration. So the way the free version works, you can share your script in read-only mode. So you can let people make comments on it. They can read your script. If you want them to actually like be able to edit with you, then you have to have a paid version, but your collaborator doesn't. You can join a script for free and co-write with someone else who has it. So if you have like a writing team, at least one person does need the paid version. Then some of the report stuff I mentioned, like breaking down your thing by character or location or the analytics stuff, that's in the paid versions as well. And there are a few different tiers. So we have like monthly. Honestly, it's too complicated to even tell you, but there's like monthly and there's plus, which gets you unlimited scripts and the collaboration. And then you have a yearly version, and you can get up to the premium tier, which includes, features like the read aloud and stuff like that, which by the way, I'm always advertising. Yeah, Buy Premium has read aloud. We're giving read aloud away now in the new read through product. So just go use read through instead, and you'll be happy.
You are very generous. Yeah.
The reason is it's
underselling your own products.
The funny thing is I've never wanted money from someone who didn't want to give us money. Like I never thought about it as this is a way to make money. I'm like, when I created this, it was free for the first year and a half. I had no idea if this would ever make a cent. I just thought this was cool. And like at some point I was like, oh, I'm going broke. Okay, I have to start charging for this. And then eventually it was, add a little bit of investment money. So you kind of owe some people their money back, but it's relatively small. So it's not a big deal at this point. And then hiring employees and wanting to be able to run a real business, you have to charge. And we try to balance that with never asking for money for someone just to write a screenplay, just to tell their story. Like we make our outlining free. All the formatting tools are free. Like you can do so much. And I never asked for a cent. And the funny thing is, we're talking about being overly generous. I'll lose my entire company if everyone switches to this. But we made our Writer Solo product, which is a completely offline desktop or web version. It's offline, even though it's on the web, amusingly. You can go and import your script and save it back to your computer and use the desktop version. Writer Solo is completely free. Like you can't pay us for that. And it has all... What was that?
Where is that at?
Just writersolo.com.
Okay.
And it's the reason we could make that one free and we haven't gone out of business since doing that is because the efficiency and effectiveness of the cloud, it goes beyond co-writing. It's when you want to just be able to open it up from any computer, any phone, never think about, did I save it? Did I have a backup? Whatever. Like that's what Writer Duet gives you, that infinite history, that cloud-based, of course, the real-time syncing with your co-writer, or not real-time, like you're co-writing separately, and you want to, just make sure that you show up next day and you see all the work that they did the previous day, and you can see exactly what that was. So we made Writer Solo free, just to be the best offline single person screenwriting software possible, and never to have like someone say, hey, I can't afford $120 screenwriting software. No, sure, just use this. It has all the features you need to be an effective screenwriter.
Gotcha. So, and we'll circle back with all those links at the end, for the show notes. So you're in the tech space in Austin. Maybe I can get your thoughts. And I started to mention this on a couple of my podcast episodes, just talking about crypto and how it's going to impact the entertainment industry. And I got absolute crickets. Usually I mention something and I'll get some emails from listeners. I got absolutely no emails. So I don't think a lot of my listeners are at all up on what this even really is going to mean for the entertainment industry. But maybe you can talk about just Web 3.0 sort of in general, and then crypto. Like, where do you see that impacting screenwriting, entertainment industry? And is there any thoughts, how does that going to impact ultimately something like Writer Duet?
It's a good question. People are doing startups related to this. I hear from them every now and then. Sometimes I see stuff they're making. The reason I think it hasn't caught on is, first of all, Hollywood is a trailing industry. Like, we didn't have, Google Docs was for the mainstream, and then however many years after Google Docs, Writer Duet was for the niche market. And I think that's going to be the case, not only because it's a small market, but because it's a market where the industry doesn't want to be the tech forward place. They want to be the creativity forward place. They want to build beautiful and, commercially viable art. They're not here to, prove every technology concept like, startup game. And we have to. So I think it's always going to trail a little bit. And what people have to do, and I think it will eventually, I think I'm not going to say everything will be blockchain someday, but the idea of, like, technically Writer Duet is oddly blockchain in its own stupid way. Like, the way we keep the infinite history of all the edits, we have a ledger, like we kind of do all those things. We resolve things when there are multiple versions of it. We have a algorithm that decides, well, what's the right version? And all these things are very valuable technology concepts. The ways that we've applied them to the industry are not yet essential. And until they are, the industry will not adopt them, I think. I think the industry is waiting for a problem that they've had for many years that can be solved by crypto or by blockchain or whatever. And then they will. Like, as soon as that problem is actually solved, like, I have people, and I think this is a good concept. Maybe it'll actually be amazing when they do it, like launching copyright and detection and stuff on the blockchain, because you can verifiably prove that things were done at certain times. And I don't know that the industry thinks that's a problem right now. Maybe an individual person thinks it's a problem, but does the industry saying, hey, we need to verify every single step of the thing, or do we just have someone sign a contract that says they wrote it? And that's as much as the industry has asked for so far. I think that's why it hasn't been mass adoption. But at some point, the industry, I think, will demand this, usually about, I'm making this up, but 10 years after the rest of the world kind of adopts it. I think you'll start seeing that. Maybe not, maybe it's 2 years, maybe but I think it's gonna be a trailing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've heard, the whole Web 3.0, is this idea of being able to control your own data. And one of the examples I saw was, instead of Facebook owning your data, you own your data, and then you can take that data and plug it into Facebook or some other competitor of Facebook. And it seems to me that could be valuable. I mean, you could plug it into Facebook, but maybe you could also plug it into Writer's Duet. Maybe all of this data becomes sort of part of your set, or part of your grouping or whatever.
I think there's something really fundamental about that's super important, which is, like, humans should control not necessarily their own data, because data is an ambiguous thing, but they should control the things that are meaningful to them. Like, I should not trust Facebook to be the, like, arbiter of what content I consume or who gets to know things about me or whatever. Like, that's just a bad model, even if I liked the company. So I think you can say that that's the important piece. Is it so important that it can go anywhere? Yeah, to a degree, but the key is that, like, the human ownership of it. And with art, as an example, you should have a way that you control whatever it is. And I can actually shout out to John August, and I think I'm not gonna be able to say his name right, but Stu, and his last name I can't say, unfortunately, without looking it up. They did Fountain, the Fountain syntax, and that has been a really good screenplay tool, because it's just a way of saying, hey, just export your script as a text document. Every program, in the last 14 years can open TXT files or whatever. So no one's gonna argue that that's not yours if you have it in that thing. So I think that's a really important piece. The interpolation of stuff like, will there be 12 social media apps that all absorb data the same way? Probably not. Like, I think it's too hard, and there's no real cost advantage for them doing it. But with things that are important to you, just make sure you can export that, you can download that, like, demand that of whatever resource you're using. So Writer Duet, like, from the beginning, one of the things that made us not special, but made us important was that we imported from any program, we exported to any place, because I never wanted someone to feel they were locked into anything. Like, I didn't want there to be a problem on our site and you couldn't get your script. I'm like, no, that's fucking terrible. So we we actually used to charge for our backups. Like, you had to have a paid program to back up to Google Drive or Dropbox. You could download for free, but to have those cloud ones. And I'm like, no, we just made that free. We're like, no, it annoys me to think that a person might ever lose a script. So I was just like, no, we have to make sure. So it's kind of funny. You said the exact right thing and I said no, and now I'm saying the exact thing you said, which is you should have the ability to have whatever is important to you in a ubiquitous format. And you control that, and that's really important. Blockchain, I actually don't know that that's necessarily what blockchain is. I think blockchain offers that idea, but for most people, they just want a text file or something they can just onto their computer and store and put it, back it up to their cloud service that they choose, and that's good enough, I think, for most use cases.
Yeah, for sure. So, as we wrap up the interview, I always like to end the interviews just by asking the guest, is there anything you've seen recently that you thought was really fantastic? Anything Hulu, HBO, Netflix that maybe screenwriters could check out?
One of my favorite shows lately has been Peacemaker.
Okay.
I really like that show on HBO. It's James Gunn, and it's just really fun. One of the things I loved about it is it's an action thing. It's fun to watch. Like, it has an engaging thing, but all of the character development and growth I saw in it happens through comedy and action and stuff happening around it. And so they don't take like a 5-minute beat to make you say, wow, this character is really going through something. They show you something interesting happening to the character, involving multiple characters, so they're interacting, and they let the character growth happen really organically. And like, I'm not saying it's the greatest art piece ever. Maybe it's supposed to be, but I think it's its own thing. Like, you can't say it's brilliant in the way it delivers art, but it's so fun and it's so engaging, and you get to like capture little moments of brilliance along the way. So maybe I don't want to say it's not brilliant either. Right?
Yeah.
Feel bad. No one's gonna. James, please don't listen to this. I like it a lot. So yeah, I mean, just thinking about that show, and there's some other stuff back in the day. It's a funny one. Another one I'm watching, it's a real old show, but it's Fresh Off the Boat, and I really enjoyed that because they have conflict, they have stressful situations, but it's all done with heart and love. And something that I think another show I really liked back in the day was King of the Hill. I always thought it loved the characters. It would make fun of them, but it still really appreciated who they were. It wasn't just saying these are bad people because they're doing something stupid. It said they're stupid people who are doing something stupid. We still all kind of love something about them. They're real humans. And I think that's a really great way to tell a story.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the best way for people to kind of keep up with what you're doing? And we can mention all of the links. It sounds like writersduet.com, writersolo.com. You can mention all those links. If you have a Twitter, blog, anything you want to share here, we'll round up for the show notes.
Yeah. So those are Writer Duet, writersolo.com, readthrough.com is our new app for listening and reading your scripts. Twitter @WriterDuet. Just my personal text number. I'll make sure you have that. You can just call me and just hang. Those kinds of things. Like, we want people to engage with us. If you're chilling on the Reddit of screenwriting and you use Writer Duet or you don't or whatever, you got a question, we kind of respond there. Being like a community place, I think is important. Whatever group you're on, @Guy Goldstein, and you'll probably, or @Writer Duet, depending which channel it is, and you'll probably find me popping up saying, "Hey, what's up?"
Well, perfect, Guy. I really appreciate this. Very, very interesting interview. I really love what you're doing, and can't thank you enough for coming on and talking with me today.
I really appreciate you having me. It's a great show, and I really enjoyed this. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the reader who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, character, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write your logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline and synopsis writing service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase this service as a standalone product. As a bonus, if your screenplay gets a recommend or a consider from one of our readers, you get to list the screenplay in the SYS Select database, which is a database for producers to find screenplays and a big part of our SYS Select program. Producers are in the database searching for material on a daily basis, so it's another great way to get your material in front of them. As a further bonus, if your script gets a recommend from one of our readers, your screenplay will get included in our monthly Best Of newsletter. Each month we send out a newsletter that highlights the best screenplays that have come through our script analysis service. This is a monthly newsletter that goes out to our list of over 400 producers who are actively looking for material. So again, this is another great way to get your material out there. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Wes Miller. He is a lawyer turned filmmaker, really smart guy who just quit being a lawyer to pursue being a writer-director, and he's now written, directed, and or produced more than half a dozen feature films. We talk about his move from lawyer to filmmaker and how he was able to make that transition as smoothly as possible. And then we talk about his newest film, action film called A Day to Die, starring Bruce Willis, Frank Grillo, and Kevin Dillon. We talk through that film and how he was able to get that one produced as well. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. That's the show. Thank you for listening.